Welcome, chosen one. Before we begin, I want to take a heartfelt moment to express my deepest gratitude to each of you who have supported this mission through super thanks and donations. Your generosity isn't just a gift, it's a powerful force that fuels the message we share, allowing us to spread truth, encouragement, and divine wisdom. You are not just supporters, you are pillars of this journey, and your kindness is both seen and cherished. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered why your name always seems to come up in conversations, sometimes even in places you've never been? Why people who barely know you seem so intrigued by your life, your choices, and even the smallest of your actions? It's not a coincidence. It's the weight of being chosen. When you walk into a room, the very atmosphere shifts. People sense your energy before you even speak. Some admire it, others are unsettled by it, but none can ignore it. You are a mystery they cannot solve, an enigma that challenges their understanding of what is possible. That's why you're the hot topic, not because you seek attention, but because your presence demands it. And here's the thing, those who talk about you the most are often the ones who don't even understand why they're so drawn to you. Something about you stirs their spirit, even if they can't quite put it into words. If you've ever felt this, if you know deep down that you carry something rare and undeniable, then let this moment be your confirmation. Drop 999 in the comments below as a bold declaration of your divine calling. Let the world know you are set apart, chosen for a greater purpose. But let's take this even deeper. It's not just about admiration or curiosity. There's a real reason why you are at the center of people's thoughts, whether in admiration or scrutiny. You shake things up, you break patterns, you remind people that the extraordinary exists, and that terrifies them. Are you ready to uncover the truth behind why you're unforgettable? Let's dive in. God's chosen ones, the real reason you're the hot topic of every conversation. Number 1. Your existence disrupts norms. Chosen one, have you ever felt like your very presence changes the atmosphere of a room? You walk in, and suddenly people can't help but notice you. It's not because you're seeking attention, it's because you carry something different, something powerful. You weren't created to fit into the boxes that others try so hard to stay in. You were made to break the mold, and that's why people can't stop talking about you. Most people live their lives clinging to routines, building comfort around rules that feel safe and predictable. But when you show up, everything shifts. It's not just about what you do, it's the way you live authentically and unapologetically. Can you see how that might challenge their sense of normal? They've spent years building their worldviews around what's familiar, and then you come along and disrupt it all without even trying. It's like the story of Jesus healing the man born blind in John 9. The Pharisees couldn't handle the fact that Jesus performed a miracle on the Sabbath. It wasn't the healing that upset them, it was the fact that he broke their rules. His actions exposed the rigidity and emptiness of their traditions. In the same way, your life reveals that many of the limits people believe in are self-imposed. You show them a reality they've been too afraid to consider, and that can be unsettling. Why do people find you so fascinating, even if they don't always admit it? It's because you succeed where others wouldn't dare to try. You walk paths they wouldn't risk, make choices they'd label reckless, yet somehow you thrive. They might wonder, how is this possible? They can't understand your strength, your courage, or your ability to rise above fear. Think of David stepping onto the battlefield with Goliath, 1 Samuel 17. He didn't look like a warrior, and the odds were stacked against him. Yet his faith and courage allowed him to achieve the impossible. David didn't conform to expectations. He shattered them, Do you see the parallel? Like David, you challenge what people think is possible. You force them to confront their own limits and question if they've been holding themselves back all along. This is why people are drawn to you, even if they don't always show it in a positive way. You reflect a kind of freedom and boldness they've told themselves isn't real. Have you noticed how your success makes them rethink their own choices? It's not just envy. It's a deep discomfort with the idea that the rules they've been following might not matter as much as they thought. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." You live by this truth, walking in alignment with a divine plan that surpasses human understanding. That's why your life feels so different. It's meant to. You don't just exist in the world, you rearrange it. Whether people love you or misunderstand you, they can't ignore you. Your presence demands attention because it represents something bigger than yourself. A disruption of what is, and a glimpse of what could be. So, chosen one, take a moment to reflect. Can you see how your courage and authenticity ripple through the lives of those around you? How you, like David or Jesus, are part of a greater plan to challenge norms and create something extraordinary. Number 2, you reflect what others fear to confront. Chosen one, have you ever noticed how people's reactions to you often feel bigger than the actions you've taken? They aren't just reacting to you, they're reacting to what you represent. When others look at you, they don't merely see the person standing before them. They see the reflection of their own hidden fears, unfulfilled dreams, and dormant potential. Your life becomes a mirror they can't avoid, even if they desperately wish to. Your boldness, your determination, and your refusal to settle for less than you're called to stir something deep within them. For some, that reflection is motivating, inspiring them to consider possibilities they had long dismissed. For others, however, it's deeply unsettling. Your courage shines a light on the areas they've buried under self-doubt, excuses, and fear. Without even trying, you make them question everything they thought they knew about themselves. Have you noticed this in how people treat you, how their words or actions often reveal more about their inner struggles than about you? This isn't a new phenomenon. Consider the story of Moses and the Israelites in Exodus 16. When Moses led the people out of Egypt, they began to complain about the hardships of the wilderness, longing to return to slavery rather than face the uncertainties of freedom. Moses' leadership reflected their fears: fear of the unknown, fear of responsibility, and fear of stepping into a future they couldn't control. Like Moses, your boldness to step into the unknown challenges others to confront what they're holding on to, whether it's comfort, fear, or old versions of themselves they've outgrown. People have a habit of projecting their internal struggles onto those around them. When they see you thriving, breaking barriers, stepping outside of comfort zones and pursuing growth, they can't help but compare themselves to you. If they've been hesitating to chase their own dreams, your fearlessness becomes a spotlight on their inaction. If they've settled into a life of complacency, your hunger for something greater feels like a direct challenge to their status quo. Can you see how simply living authentically might feel like a confrontation to those around you? Look at the prophet Jonah, whose story is told in the book of Jonah. When God called him to go to Nineveh, Jonah ran in the opposite direction. Why? Because he didn't want to confront the difficult mission God had given him. In the end, God used Jonah as a tool to reflect the hearts of the people of Nineveh and bring them to repentance. Similarly, your life can be a reflection that calls others to confront their own challenges, fears, and callings. Not everyone is ready for that, and some will run from it, just as Jonah did. Some people will put you on a pedestal, seeing you as an example of what they could become if they chose courage over fear. Others, however, will try to tear you down, not because of anything you've done, but because your success or confidence reminds them of their own regrets. Their criticism often has little to do with you and everything to do with the parts of themselves they aren't ready to face. Have you ever wondered why some people admire you while others seem threatened by your very presence? Remember the story of Nehemiah in Nehemiah 4. When Nehemiah set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, his enemies, Sanballat and Tobiah, ridiculed him and tried to stop his work. Their resistance wasn't about the wall itself, it was about what the wall symbolized: strength, renewal, and divine purpose. Like Nehemiah, your actions don't just create change. They carry meaning that challenges the perspectives and comfort zones of those around you. Whether people cheer for you or criticize you, one truth remains: you leave an impression they cannot ignore. You are a walking wake-up call, reminding others of the lives they could live if they chose faith over fear. That's why you're such a hot topic. Your presence makes people question whether they've been playing small, living someone else's version of success, or avoiding the hard truths they need to face. In a world full of distractions, few things are as impactful as someone who forces others to think deeply. That's who you are. Like Moses, Jonah, or Nehemiah, you weren't placed here to make people comfortable. You were placed here to challenge, inspire, and help others grow, even if it's uncomfortable at first. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how your authenticity ripples through the lives of those around you, how your actions call others higher even when they don't realize it? Whether they admire you or resist you, your life has a purpose far greater than their reactions. You are here to reflect not only their fears, but also their potential, reminding them of what's possible. Number 3, you create a love-hate obsession. Chosen one, have you ever noticed how some people can't seem to decide whether they admire you or resent you? It's because you have this rare ability to evoke two opposing emotions at the same time: love and hate. Without even trying, you inspire a fascination that keeps people locked in a cycle of admiration and envy. They're drawn to your confidence, your individuality, and your unapologetic ability to stand out. Yet, that same admiration is intertwined with a deep sense of discomfort because you represent something they secretly wish they could embody. This contradiction keeps you at the forefront of their minds. Your boldness energizes them, making them feel alive and awake to the possibilities of life. But it also stirs something deeper, insecurities they've buried under years of fear, routine, or complacency. Have you ever wondered why your mere presence seems to stir so many emotions in people? It's because by thriving unapologetically, you remind them of everything they've held themselves back from pursuing. This dynamic isn't new. Think of Joseph and his brothers in Genesis 37. Joseph, favored by their father and blessed with dreams of greatness, became the target of their jealousy. His brothers loved him as family, but they hated what he represented: favor, potential, and a destiny greater than their own. They envied the dreams he dared to share and resented the attention he naturally commanded. Like Joseph, you become a living reminder of unfulfilled potential, and not everyone knows how to process those emotions. Your ability to evoke both admiration and resentment is what makes you unforgettable. People can't stop watching you, analyzing you, and wondering what you'll do next because you're unpredictable. You don't conform to their expectations or fit neatly into the molds they've accepted for themselves. Instead, you live authentically, and that authenticity feels both exciting and intimidating to those around you. Have you noticed how your authenticity often sparks curiosity, but also discomfort? This love-hate obsession stems from the fact that you embody possibility. You show people what life can look like when it's lived without fear or limitation. That idea is thrilling to some and terrifying to others. Look at the story of Daniel in the lion's den, Daniel 6. Daniel's unwavering faith and integrity made him a man of great admiration, yet it also provoked resentment among his peers. They plotted against him, not because of any wrongdoing, but because his life reflected a level of faithfulness they couldn't match. Similarly, your authenticity highlights both the beauty and the discomfort of living true to oneself. People are wired to be fascinated by what they can't fully understand or control, and that's exactly what you are, a mystery. You don't follow the rules they cling to. You're not predictable. That leaves them constantly questioning, what will they do next? How do they stay so fearless? Whether they praise you or criticize you, one thing is certain, they can't ignore you. Have you ever stopped to think about why people are so hooked on your story? It's because you spark conversations they can't seem to let go of. They may discuss your choices, your success, or even your mistakes, but what they're really analyzing is their own reflection in the mirror you hold up. You make them feel things they'd rather avoid, things like regret for the risks they didn't take, or longing for a life they convinced themselves wasn't possible. This love-hate dynamic is addictive. Like the Pharisees watching Jesus, people are drawn to your authenticity, even if it challenges them. In Mark 12:37, we read that the large crowd listened to him with delight. Yet, many of the religious leaders were simultaneously plotting against him. Why? Because he was both loved for his truth and hated for the way that truth exposed their hypocrisy. Your life works the same way. It reveals what people need to see, whether they're ready for it or not. At the core of it all, you are the embodiment of a life lived freely and fearlessly. That kind of freedom is magnetic. It excites people because it shows them what's possible, but it also intimidates them because it reminds them of everything they've yet to confront within themselves. You don't just hold their attention, you take up space in their minds. You represent the intersection of what they admire and what they fear, and that creates an obsession they can't escape. So, chosen one, take this as a sign of your power. You weren't made to blend in or live quietly. You were made to ignite change, stir emotions, and provoke thought. Whether people love you or hate you or both, you leave an undeniable mark on their lives. And in a world full of distractions, that kind of impact is a rare and precious gift. Number 4, you redefine success without seeking validation. Chosen. 1. Isn't it incredible how you've managed to thrive without chasing the applause or approval of others? In a world consumed by the need for likes, praise, and external validation, you're a striking contrast. You've chosen a path defined not by the opinions of others, but by your own authenticity, and that alone makes you magnetic. People can't help but watch you, not because you demand their attention, but because your life quietly, yet powerfully, redefines what success truly means. Most people have been conditioned to believe that success follows a specific formula, a prestigious job title, a picture-perfect home, or a life polished for public approval. But you've broken free from those illusions. Instead of walking the well-trodden path of conformity, you've carved your own way, even when it confused or intimidated others. Have you noticed how your independence can leave people simultaneously inspired and unsettled? It's because your life challenges the beliefs they've relied on to feel secure. Think of Abraham in Genesis 12, when God called him to leave everything familiar, his homeland, his family, and his comforts, for an unknown destination. Abraham obeyed, stepping into uncertainty with nothing but faith as his guide. Like Abraham, you've chosen to define success not by what's seen or celebrated, but by the quiet, steady pursuit of your purpose. That kind of courage is rare, and it leaves others in awe, wondering, how do they do it? Your ability to thrive without seeking validation baffles people because it disrupts their understanding of fulfillment. They've been taught to equate happiness with fitting into society's expectations, playing by the rules, climbing ladders, and seeking approval. Then you show up, thriving outside those boundaries, and it challenges everything they thought they knew. You don't need applause to keep moving forward, and that terrifies those who rely on recognition to feel worthy. Consider the story of Ruth. When her husband died, Ruth chose to leave her homeland and follow her mother-in-law Naomi, saying, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay." Ruth 1:16. Ruth didn't chase approval or validation. Instead, she pursued what was right and purposeful, even when it defied expectations. Her faithfulness and authenticity eventually led to a life of profound blessing. Like Ruth, you don't measure success by outward appearances, but by the integrity and purpose behind your actions. What confuses people most about you is how your approach works. They can't wrap their minds around the fact that you succeed without conforming, people-pleasing, or waiting for anyone's permission. You don't beg for attention, yet it naturally gravitates toward you. Your achievements, no matter how unconventional, speak louder than any validation ever could. Doesn't it feel powerful to know that your life is proof that success doesn't require fitting into anyone else's mold? Your life exposes the lie that fulfillment comes only from being accepted by others. Instead, you've shown that true success is about accepting yourself and living with authenticity and purpose. Look at Jesus' ministry in John 6. After feeding the 5,000, he was followed by crowds who sought him not for his teachings, but because they wanted more miracles. Jesus didn't adjust his message to please them or win their approval. Instead, he spoke the truth, even when it caused many to turn away. Like Jesus, you stay true to your path, even when it doesn't make sense to others. This is why people are drawn to you. Your authenticity forces them to reevaluate what they've been chasing. You've shown them another way, one where freedom, purpose, and inner alignment matter more than outward appearances. Some will find this inspiring, realizing that they too can live authentically. Others may feel threatened, realizing that the carefully constructed image they've built doesn't bring the fulfillment they expected. Regardless of how they respond, one thing is certain: you've left an impression they can't ignore. You've demonstrated that success isn't about being accepted by the world. It's about accepting yourself and aligning with a purpose greater than appearances. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how your life is a quiet revolution, challenging the standards of success that so many blindly follow? Like Abraham, Ruth, and Jesus, you're paving a path that prioritizes authenticity over approval. Whether people are inspired by you or unsettled by your independence, remember this: you are living proof that success isn't about validation, it's about purpose. Number 5, your energy is unmistakable. Chosen one, have you noticed how people seem to feel your presence before you even say a word? It's not about what you're wearing, what you're saying, or even how you look. It's the energy you carry. When you walk into a room, it's as if the atmosphere shifts. The air grows heavier with meaning, and the attention of others instinctively gravitates toward you. People may not fully understand why they feel drawn to you, but they feel it. That quiet yet commanding presence is what makes heads turn and conversations spark, even in your silence. Your energy is magnetic, but not because you demand attention. It's because you radiate confidence, purpose, and authenticity. There's a calm assurance in the way you move through life, and that assurance naturally draws people to you. Have you ever wondered why some people are so captivated by your presence even if they don't know you well? It's because your energy doesn't just fill the space, it transforms it. Consider the story of Esther. In Esther 5, we see her courage and poise as she approaches the king uninvited, something that could have cost her life. Yet her presence alone, marked by confidence and purpose, softened the king's heart and granted her favor. Esther's energy wasn't loud or attention-seeking. It was rooted in her mission and her alignment with God's plan. Like Esther, you carry an energy that leaves a mark, one that others can't help but notice and respect, even if they can't explain why. What sets your energy apart is how it lingers long after you've left. People replay the way you made them feel, uplifted, challenged, or simply inspired. It's not about perfection or performance. It's about the genuine connection you create. Whether it's through your passion, your poise, or your unapologetic authenticity, something about you resonates deeply with people. Have you ever considered how your mere presence might be inspiring someone in ways they haven't even shared with you? Your energy also carries a sense of freedom that others find both refreshing and intimidating. In Matthew 5:14-16, Jesus says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house." That's exactly what your energy does. It shines. You don't dim your light to make others comfortable, and because of that, you stand out in a way that is both rare and unforgettable. This is why your energy becomes a topic of fascination. People feel it, talk about it, and even try to replicate it. But what they don't realize is that it's not something that can be imitated. Your energy isn't manufactured, it's lived. It's the result of being fully in tune with who you are, unapologetically walking in your purpose, and staying aligned with the path God has set before you. Think of the prophet Samuel as a young boy in 1 Samuel 3. Even as a child, Samuel's energy was unmistakable because he was aligned with his calling. When God called his name in the night, Samuel responded, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." That attentiveness to purpose is what made Samuel's presence powerful, even before he grew into his role as a prophet. Like Samuel, your energy is rooted in alignment and obedience to a higher calling, and that's what sets you apart. What fascinates people most is how effortlessly you embody this presence. You're not striving for attention or approval, yet it seems to find you. Your authenticity strikes a chord with others, not because you're trying to be anything other than yourself, but because being yourself is so rare in a world full of imitation. Isn't it amazing how being true to who you are can have such a profound impact? This kind of presence isn't something you learn, it's something you live. And because it's so rare, it makes you unforgettable. You aren't just noticed, you're felt. You don't just occupy space, you transform it. People may try to analyze your energy or even replicate it, but what they don't realize is that it's not something that can be borrowed. It's the natural result of living authentically, walking in your purpose, and remaining true to yourself and your Creator. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how your energy changes the spaces you enter, how your presence inspires, challenges, and connects with people on a level they can't quite articulate? Like Esther, like Samuel, and like the light on a hill, you shine in a way that cannot be hidden, and that's what makes you utterly impossible to ignore. Number 6. You thrive in adversity, making others feel exposed. Chosen one, have you noticed how adversity seems to refine you rather than break you? Where others see chaos as a stumbling block, you see an opportunity. You don't merely survive challenges, you thrive through them. It's as if every setback sharpens your focus and fuels your determination. You've learned to adapt, to find growth even in the most difficult circumstances. And that ability to rise no matter the odds is what sets you apart. Think of Job, a man who faced unimaginable trials yet refused to let them define him. In Job 1:21, after losing everything, he proclaimed, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job's resilience wasn't about ignoring his pain, but about refusing to let it consume his faith. Like Job, you face adversity with strength and clarity, and that resilience doesn't just inspire, it unsettles. Have you noticed how some people admire your strength yet seem uneasy around it? Your ability to navigate hardships shines a light on how others respond to their own challenges. Many crumble under pressure, retreating into self-pity or excuses. Watching you handle setbacks with courage forces them to confront their own potential, the kind they've avoided tapping into. Your resilience acts as a mirror, showing them what's possible if they choose to rise instead of retreat. It's not that they don't respect you, they do, but admiration often comes with discomfort when your strength exposes their weaknesses. Consider Joseph's story in Genesis 39. Despite being sold into slavery and falsely imprisoned, Joseph rose above his circumstances. His unwavering faith and ability to thrive in adversity eventually elevated him to a position of power in Egypt. Like Joseph, you refuse to let struggles define you. Instead, you adapt, grow, and use the lessons of hardship as stepping stones. This is why people talk about you. You've shown them that adversity doesn't have to signal the end. It can be the beginning of something greater. Some will find hope in your story, using it as motivation to overcome their own challenges. Others, however, may critique your methods or downplay your wins because it's easier than facing their own limitations. Have you noticed how some people seem more focused on dissecting your success than working on their own growth? Your resilience isn't just about you. It's a reflection of what's possible when faith and determination intersect. Whether people love you for it or feel threatened by it, they can't stop paying attention. Like the Apostle Paul, who declared in 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Your strength doesn't come from avoiding struggles, but from embracing them and finding purpose within them. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how your resilience inspires others, even when they don't acknowledge it? Your ability to thrive in adversity is proof that challenges can refine, not define. You are a living reminder that setbacks are not the end, they're the foundation for new beginnings. Number 7, you don't compete, you set standards. Have you ever noticed how others seem to measure themselves against you, even though you're not competing with them? That's because you don't play by the unspoken rules of competition. While others are busy comparing themselves to everyone around them, you remain laser-focused on your own growth. You're not interested in outdoing anyone. You're committed to mastering yourself. This mindset changes everything. People expect you to join the race they've constructed, yet you don't even acknowledge its existence. Instead of chasing trends or approval, you carve your own path. Like David in 1 Samuel 17, who faced Goliath armed with nothing but a sling and a few stones, you set standards that others never even imagined. David wasn't trying to prove himself to the crowd, he was acting in alignment with his purpose. Similarly, your focus on self-mastery confuses and fascinates those who are trapped in the cycle of comparison. What really intrigues people is how your approach works. You achieve success without needing to outperform others, and that creates an unspoken rivalry. Even if you're not participating, people begin to measure themselves against you, wondering how you move with such confidence and clarity. But here's the twist: they're competing with you while you're not competing at all. This dynamic mirrors the story of Nehemiah rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem in Nehemiah 6. His enemies tried to distract him, saying, "Come, let us meet together." But Nehemiah replied, "I am doing a great work and can't come down." Like Nehemiah, you don't allow distractions or rivalries to pull you away from your purpose. Your focus isn't on winning the race they're running, it's on completing the work you're called to do. That quiet confidence shakes people to their core. It forces them to question their own motivations. Are they chasing success for themselves, or are they trying to keep up with others? Your refusal to compete challenges them to rethink what true achievement looks like. Have you noticed how your independence makes people reconsider their own goals and priorities? Jesus himself set the ultimate example of this in John 18:36, when he said, "My kingdom is not of this world." While others were consumed with worldly power and rivalries, Jesus operated on a higher plane, focused solely on his divine purpose. Like Jesus, you don't conform to the world's idea of success. You redefine it by staying true to your mission. Your ability to set standards without trying to dominate others is what makes you so compelling. You're not here to prove you're better than anyone. You're here to be the best version of yourself. And that quiet, unshakable focus draws people in, whether they admit it or not. So, chosen one, ask yourself, do you see how your refusal to compete frees you to excel in ways others can't understand? Your presence changes the game, not by joining it, but by setting a higher standard entirely. Whether people love you, envy you, or try to imitate you, one thing is certain: you've redefined the rules and they can't stop paying attention. Number 8. Your flaws are what make you iconic. Chosen one, isn't it remarkable how you've embraced something the world tries so hard to avoid? Your flaws. In a society obsessed with perfection, you do something radical. You show up exactly as you are, without apology. While others go to great lengths to smooth out their edges, hide their scars, and present a polished version of themselves, you lean into your quirks, your imperfections, and even your vulnerabilities. This authenticity is what sets you apart. Your so-called flaws aren't weaknesses. They're the very things that make you human, relatable, and unforgettable. Have you ever noticed how people can't seem to stop talking about you? It's because your imperfections tell a story of resilience, growth, and individuality. They remind the world that perfection is an illusion, and that true strength lies in being real. Think about Peter in the Bible. He wasn't perfect. He doubted, he denied Jesus 3 times, and he often acted impulsively. Yet, Jesus saw Peter's potential, saying in Matthew 16:18, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." Peter's flaws didn't disqualify him. They became part of his strength, showing how God works through imperfection to create something extraordinary. Like Peter, your flaws don't diminish you, they elevate you. They make your story worth telling. While others hide behind masks, you live your truth unapologetically, and that makes people curious. How can you be so comfortable being real when so many are terrified of being seen for who they truly are? Have you ever noticed how your authenticity makes others pause and question why they're so afraid of showing their own humanity? What's even more fascinating is how your openness transforms the way people see themselves. Your imperfections, whether it's a scar with a story, a laugh that's too loud, or a bold opinion you refuse to suppress. Inspire others to rethink their own insecurities. Consider Paul's words in 2 Corinthians 12:9. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." You embody this truth, showing others that what they see as flaws can become their greatest strengths. By owning every part of who you are, you remind people of something they've forgotten. Imperfection is what makes us unique, and authenticity is what makes us iconic. You're not trying to be perfect, and that's exactly why people find you unforgettable. Whether they love you for it or critique you, one thing is certain: they can't ignore you. So, chosen one, ask yourself, do you see how your flaws are not burdens but gifts? Gifts that connect you to others and remind them of their own humanity. Like Peter and Paul, your imperfections are part of what makes your impact so powerful. They don't weaken your light, they make it shine even brighter. Number 9, you're a silent catalyst for change. Have you ever noticed how people seem to rethink their lives after being around you? You don't need to preach or persuade. Your very existence does the work. You simply are, and that's enough to spark transformation in ways you may never fully see. Your life challenges the idea that success or fulfillment must follow a conventional script. You don't follow the rules that others cling to, and by doing so, you create space for people to question their own paths. It's not about what you say, it's about the choices you make. Choices that are bold, unconventional, and unapologetically aligned with your purpose. Have you ever wondered how your quiet example might be inspiring someone to take a step toward the life they've always wanted, but were too afraid to pursue? Think of Noah in Genesis 6. God called him to build an ark, a task that seemed absurd to everyone around him. Yet Noah didn't spend his time justifying his actions to skeptics. He simply followed God's instructions, and in doing so, he became a catalyst for change, even when others didn't understand him. Like Noah, your actions speak louder than words, showing others what's possible when you walk your own path with courage and faith. What's remarkable about your influence is its subtlety. You plant seeds of change in people's hearts without forcing anything. They might never tell you directly, but your example makes them question, why am I living this way? Is this truly what I want? Or am I just following someone else's script? Look at Jesus' interaction with Zacchaeus in Luke 19. Zacchaeus, a tax collector shunned by society, climbed a tree just to catch a glimpse of Jesus. When Jesus noticed him and invited himself to Zacchaeus' home, that simple act of recognition led to Zacchaeus' transformation. Jesus didn't lecture or demand change. He simply was, and his presence inspired Zacchaeus to rethink his life. Like Jesus, you influence others by simply living authentically, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond what you can see. Your presence challenges people to reconsider what they thought was possible. You've shown them that there's another way, a way that doesn't rely on external validation, rigid expectations, or fear. Some will feel inspired to take risks and explore new possibilities, while others might resist the discomfort of questioning their choices. But regardless of their reaction, one thing is certain: you've planted a seed. This kind of influence isn't loud or forceful. It's quiet, yet undeniable. You're not trying to change anyone, but your authenticity makes change seem possible. Consider Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Your life sharpens others, not by force but by example. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how your life has the power to inspire others to grow simply by existing authentically? Like Noah, Jesus, and even the wisdom of Proverbs, your influence isn't in what you say, but in how you live. And that quiet, unshakable example, is a catalyst for change in ways you might never fully realize. Number 10. Your boundaries. Confuse and intimidate. Chosen one, have you noticed how your boundaries leave people puzzled, even unsettled? In a world that thrives on drama, constant validation, and endless distractions, you stand out because you operate on a completely different level. While others feel the need to be everywhere, say everything, and participate in every emotional tug of war, you have the clarity to know when to engage and when to walk away. That self-awareness is not just rare, it's a superpower. Your boundaries aren't about creating distance, they're about protecting peace. And that calm composure you carry, it's deeply unsettling to those who thrive in chaos. People who are addicted to drama often find your restraint baffling because it challenges the very environment they're comfortable in. Consider Jesus in Luke 5:16, where it says, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." Even in the midst of his ministry, Jesus knew when to step away to recharge and connect with his purpose. Like Jesus, you understand that withdrawing isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Have you ever noticed how some people react when you refuse to feed into their emotional games? They can't comprehend how you stay so composed while they're swept up in turbulence. Your ability to choose peace over chaos doesn't just confuse them, it forces them to confront their own addiction to drama. Could it be that your boundaries make them realize their constant need for conflict is a choice they've been making all along? Think of Nehemiah again in Nehemiah 6. When his enemies tried to distract him from rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, he calmly replied, "I'm doing a great work and cannot come down." He refused to be pulled into unnecessary conflict because he understood the value of staying focused. Like Nehemiah, you don't allow distractions to pull you off course. Your boundaries protect your energy, and that clarity is both admirable and intimidating to those who can't seem to find it within themselves. Your ability to walk away from what no longer serves you leaves people questioning their own choices. They see your emotional clarity and realize they too could take control of their environments. But not everyone is ready for that kind of responsibility. Instead of addressing their discomfort, they talk about you. Your boundaries aren't just admirable, they're a mirror reflecting the chaos they've chosen to accept. So, chosen one, ask yourself, do you see how your calm and restraint challenge others to rethink the way they handle their own emotions? Like Jesus and Nehemiah, your boundaries aren't a limitation, they're a strength. They allow you to focus on what truly matters, leaving a lasting impression on everyone around you. Number 11. You embody what they fear. Losing freedom. Chosen one, isn't it incredible how you live with a level of freedom that others only dream of? Your life isn't dictated by society's rules, and that independence is as liberating as it is intimidating to those who've boxed themselves into the expectations of others. While they're tethered to deadlines, appearances, and constant approval, you move through life unapologetically, guided by your own values. Your freedom is magnetic. It's something they secretly long for, but are too afraid to reclaim. Have you ever wondered why people seem so drawn to you, even if they can't fully articulate why? It's because you remind them of what they've given up, parts of themselves they've silenced to fit in, please others, or meet standards that were never truly theirs. Think of the Israelites in Exodus 14 as they stood at the edge of the Red Sea. Although God had freed them from slavery in Egypt, they were paralyzed by fear and even longed to return to bondage because it felt familiar. But Moses reminded them, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today." Like Moses, your life is a reminder that freedom is not only possible, but worth pursuing, even when it feels uncertain or uncomfortable. Your independence forces people to confront the compromises they've made. They see you living unapologetically, and suddenly they're reminded of the dreams they abandoned, the passions they let fade, and the moments they chose conformity over authenticity. Have you noticed how your presence stirs up both admiration and regret in others? Consider the prodigal son in Luke 15. When he returned to his father after squandering his inheritance, he was welcomed with open arms. His story reminds us that it's never too late to reclaim what's been lost. Like the prodigal son, your life offers others the hope that they too can break free from the confines of societal expectations and rediscover their true selves. You're living proof that it's possible to live boldly, unapologetically, and on your own terms. This realization both inspires and challenges those around you. They see you and begin to question, am I living the life I truly want, or have I settled for what's expected of me? Your freedom isn't just about breaking rules, it's about living authentically and fully aligned with your purpose. This terrifies some people because it makes them confront what they fear losing most, their freedom to live as they truly desire. But at the same time, you offer them something profound, the reminder that it's never too late to reclaim it. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how your independence becomes a beacon of hope for others? Like Moses, the prodigal son, and the Israelites, you remind them that freedom is not only possible, but essential. Whether they feel inspired or intimidated, they can't look away. You've shown them that a life lived unapologetically isn't just a dream, it's a choice. Number 12. You turn criticism into currency. Chosen one, have you noticed how the very things meant to tear you down only seem to lift you higher? While others wilt under the weight of judgment or retreat in the face of negativity, you do something remarkable. You thrive. Criticism, whispers, side eyes, and even outright attacks become fuel for your journey. It's not that you're immune to the sting of words, it's that you've mastered the art of turning that sting into strength. Instead of letting criticism harm you, you convert it into momentum. Every doubt cast your way, every word spoken behind your back becomes a stepping stone. What they intend as a weight to pull you down, you transform into a platform that elevates you. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how your ability to thrive under pressure confounds those who try to undermine you? Think of Joseph in Genesis 50:20, who faced betrayal from his own brothers. After being sold into slavery and enduring years of hardship, Joseph rose to a position of power in Egypt. When he confronted his brothers, he said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Like Joseph, you've learned to take what others mean for harm and turn it into something that works in your favor. Criticism doesn't weaken you, it sharpens your focus and strengthens your resolve. While others might crumble under the weight of judgment, you see it as an opportunity to prove them wrong, refine your path, or simply rise above the noise and keep moving forward. Have you ever considered how your ability to weaponize attention, whether positive or negative, might be the very thing that sets you apart? Jesus himself faced relentless criticism throughout his ministry. In John 8, when the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery to test him, Jesus didn't engage in their attempts to trap him. Instead, he responded with calm authority, saying, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." His words not only silenced his critics, but also revealed their hypocrisy. Like Jesus, you don't waste energy fighting back. You allow your actions and focus to speak louder than any words ever could. What your critics fail to understand is that their attention whether it comes as praise or condemnation, is just another tool in your hands. Each comment, each critique, each doubt cast your way becomes energy that propels you further. Have you noticed how the more they talk, the more you rise? The more they judge, the more you evolve. It's not a coincidence, it's the power of resilience and clarity at work. Consider David in 1 Samuel 17. When he stepped forward to face Goliath, his brothers criticized him, accusing him of pride and insolence. Yet David didn't let their words deter him. Instead he replied, "Is there not a cause?" and continued forward, defeating the giant with nothing but a sling and a stone. Like David, you don't waste energy defending yourself to those who doubt you. Instead, you channel that energy into your mission, proving through action that their words hold no power over you. This ability to rise above criticism doesn't just elevate you, it confounds those who try to pull you down. They don't understand how their negativity becomes your fuel, how their doubts strengthen your resolve, or how their attempts to stop you only propel you forward. Have you ever wondered how your resilience forces others to reconsider their own approach to setbacks? In the end, you're living proof that attention, whether it's admiration or condemnation, is a tool, not a weapon. And in the hands of someone like you, it becomes a source of elevation, not harm. As Romans 8:28 reminds us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Even the criticism aimed at you can be turned into something that furthers your purpose. So, chosen one, reflect on this. Do you see how every attempt to pull you down has only propelled you higher? Like Joseph, Jesus, and David, you've learned to rise above the noise, turning criticism into currency and setbacks into success. And that, more than anything, is the true power of your resilience. Number 13, your proof that ordinary rules don't apply. Chosen one, have you ever stopped to reflect on how much your life stands out? The world loves rules. It loves order, blueprints, and well-worn paths that everyone is expected to follow. Society says success requires certain steps. Earn a degree, climb the corporate ladder, buy the perfect home, settle down, and live by the script. But you've broken away from all that. You've taken the rule book, tossed it aside, and written your own. Why? Because deep down, you know that success isn't about ticking boxes. It's about living authentically, courageously, and unapologetically. How does that make people feel when they see you thriving outside the boundaries they've spent their whole lives adhering to? For some, it's inspiring. You remind them that there's another way, a way where freedom and purpose matter more than appearances or societal approval. For others, it's unsettling. You force them to question the formula they've been following and wonder if it's even real. Have you noticed how often people are drawn to you, not just because of what you do, but because of how you do it? Think about Jesus in Matthew 4:18-22, calling his first disciples. Peter and Andrew were fishermen, deeply embedded in their daily routines, when Jesus said, "Come, follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people." Without hesitation, they left their nets and followed him. Can you imagine what that looked like to those around them? Leaving behind stability, family, and everything familiar to pursue a purpose they couldn't yet fully understand. Like the disciples, you've chosen to walk away from the familiar and embrace the extraordinary. Doesn't it feel powerful to know you're carving a path that's uniquely yours? What's truly fascinating about your journey is how effortless it seems to others. They see you thriving without a guidebook, succeeding without a blueprint, and they can't figure out how you do it. Have you ever wondered why your choices baffle people so much? It's because they've been conditioned to believe that success only comes from following a predetermined formula. But you You're living proof that the formula is a myth. You don't just survive outside the rules, you thrive. Consider Abraham's story in Genesis 12:1-4. God called him to leave his homeland and journey into the unknown with only a promise to guide him. Abraham didn't have a detailed plan or a safety net. All he had was faith. Doesn't that parallel your own journey? Like Abraham, you've stepped out into the unknown, trusting your instincts, your purpose, and a higher calling. And while others might see it as reckless, you know it's exactly where you're meant to be. Your life doesn't just challenge the rules, it dismantles them. How do you think it makes others feel to see you succeeding without following their script? For many, it's uncomfortable. They've spent years placing their trust in a checklist, believing that if they just follow the steps, happiness and success will come. Then you show up thriving in ways they never imagined possible, and it forces them to confront the limitations of the formula they've clung to. Think about Daniel in Babylon. In Daniel 1, he refused to conform to the king's expectations, choosing instead to remain faithful to his principles. His decision not only set him apart, but ultimately elevated him above his peers. Like Daniel, your refusal to blend in doesn't just make you unique, it makes you unforgettable. Have you noticed how your authenticity often inspires admiration, even from those who initially doubted you? Your life isn't just a success story, it's a disruption. Every choice you make, every risk you take, challenges the very foundation of what others believe about success. How does it feel to know that your existence alone is reshaping the way people think? You're not just proving that success isn't about fitting in, you're showing that it's about standing out. Paul's words in Galatians 1:10 come to mind. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. Like Paul, you're not here to follow the crowd or seek validation. You're here to live with purpose, boldly and unapologetically. Have you noticed how that kind of authenticity doesn't just make you memorable, it makes you magnetic? You challenge what people think is possible, and that makes them talk about you. Every time you succeed, every time you take an unexpected step, it reminds them that there's a different way to live. Do you think that's why they're so fascinated by you? It's not just what you've achieved, it's how you've done it. You've shown them that the most extraordinary things happen when you stop following the rules and start creating your own. Being a chosen one isn't about fitting in, and it's not about seeking approval. It's about creating a legacy, leaving an impression, and inspiring others to rethink their own lives. You don't just walk into a room, you shift the energy of it. You don't just inspire people, you make them feel things they can't ignore. Have you noticed how often your presence lingers in their thoughts long after you've left? At the end of the day, it's not about being liked or validated, it's about being unforgettable. Your impact is undeniable, and your presence creates ripples that can't be undone. Like Abraham, Daniel, Jesus, and Paul, you remind people of what's possible when we step outside the lines and dare to pursue something greater. So, chosen one, ask yourself, do you see how your life serves as proof that ordinary rules don't apply to those who dare to dream differently? Can you feel how your courage to carve your own path is inspiring others to question their own? Whether they understand you, admire you, or feel unsettled by your presence, one thing is certain, they will always remember you. Beloved chosen one, if you've made it this far, you already understand why you are so captivating to the world around you. Your life, your energy, and your courage to break away from the ordinary make you impossible to ignore. You challenge the norms, disrupt expectations, and leave an indelible mark on every space you enter. Whether it's your authenticity, your resilience, or your unwavering ability to rise above the noise. You've become a light in a world that craves the extraordinary. Your journey hasn't been easy, and it was never meant to be. Being chosen means walking a path that others don't understand, facing criticism, and carrying the weight of being different. But look at you now, stronger, bolder, and thriving in ways they never expected. You are living proof that being chosen isn't about fitting in or being perfect. It's about fulfilling a purpose greater than yourself. And for that, people can't help but talk about you. To those of you who feel inspired by this message, we invite you to partner with us in continuing this work. Your support through a donation, whether big or small, makes it possible for us to share more encouragement, wisdom, and light with others who need it. If you feel called to contribute, consider using Super Thanks or any of the available channels to keep this mission alive. Your generosity fuels this movement of chosen ones, helping us all rise together. To our incredible audience, thank you. Whether you've supported us with donations, shared our content, left thoughtful comments, or simply taken the time to reflect on these words, we are deeply grateful. You're not just part of this journey, you are the reason it exists. Every time you engage, you amplify the message, spreading inspiration and hope to others who need it most. As we close, we want to speak a blessing over your life. May you continue to walk boldly in your purpose, unshaken by the doubts of others. May your authenticity inspire those around you, and may your light shine even brighter in times of darkness. May you always find the strength to rise, the wisdom to discern your path, and the peace of knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. You are chosen for a reason, and your impact is far greater than you realize. Thank you for being here, for being part of this journey, and for being you. Go forth with confidence, knowing that your presence in this world is unforgettable. Stay bold, stay authentic, and stay blessed.